Hey everyone, welcome once again to Gabbin Cabin. Mark Edward Willows with you here, and I have a very special guest today, one that has a very unique profession, and a profession that, trust me, not all of us can do. He is a singer and an excellent singer. When I came across some of his work, I was floored. I mean, he can do Frank Sinatra, Louis B. Armstrong, Johnny Cash, and that is just to name a few. And he is very well known in the Chicagoland area, but also a few years ago, and we'll talk about that, he's gained some national recognition. And his name is Mr. John Vincent. John, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I have to tell you, you have a voice. You have a voice. God really gave you a voice.
Thank you very much.
And I have seen you singing many Frank Sinatra songs, all that. Why did you choose Frank Sinatra or Louis B. Armstrong or Johnny Cash?
It was Frank Sinatra because Sinatra, I started liking him in college through a friend of mine. Actually, his grandfather got us tickets to go see Sinatra in 1993 at the United Center. So I was able to see Frank Sinatra perform. And I never, my parents are both born in Italy, so I never really listened to Sinatra. We listened to Italian music in our home. Then my wheelhouse was like 80s music growing up. I started really enjoying Sinatra's music in college, then seeing him live. Don Rickles opened up for him. And I started doing his songs and performing in 2001 professionally. And so I've been doing that ever since. And I just added on different voices here and there, and at about 26, 27 voices now. And, you always got to keep it up and try different things and keep the audience engaged.
Yeah. And you have it so perfected. I mean, when you sing Frank's songs, you have the same motions that Frank had when he sang the songs. Did you sort of do, like, I guess we could call it a character study, or did you study the performance?
No,
you didn't.
Never.
So did you just pick up on it, or your character is very similar to theirs?
If you're meaning by mannerisms, I would think that the mannerisms aren't there because I never dressed like Sinatra. I never, once in a great while, you'd see me throw the tuxedo on or the suit. But I'm usually very casual when I'm singing. When I was singing at Coach Ditka's place, by the end of my career there, I was singing in, jeans and in a shirt that was very casual, gym shoes, and I was myself. So I never wanted to, being 6'5" and 350 pounds. You're not looking like Sinatra. So I never. Was going to go for the look because I knew that it wasn't possible. But, the songs I sang, I enjoyed, really had a great time doing that. So that was really big for me. And it just kind of went from there. And then I'm going to make sure I'm getting people texting me right now. I'm going to put on Do Not Disturb. Sorry.
Okay.
I think we got you back here. Hold on. So I started doing Sinatra, and then, Coach Ditka's like, hey, Johnny, why don't you try Johnny Cash, Louis Armstrong, Dean Martin, this, that, everything else. And it just kind of went from there.
And speaking of Coach Ditka, and you performed for many, many years at his steakhouse in the Chicago area, how did that come about? How did your connection with the coach come about?
I was a recruiter in accounting and finance, and I was just trying to start singing in 2001. When a recruiter that I worked with by the name of Tony, God, what is Tony's last name? It's a long time ago. Great guy. Tony was at Ditka's with a client.
And there was by any chance?
No. Tony, oh God, no. I forgot Tony's last name, but he was a recruiter with me at Chemical Personnel Search. And back in 2001, he went to Ditka's. I've never been there. He took a client there, and there was a gentleman singing Sinatra, and casually said to the client, from what he told me, my buddy's, trying to get to do this. And the manager overheard it, gave him his card. I went in, I auditioned for Coach and Mrs. Ditka, and was there for 20 years.
Wow, talk about a career. Now, I need to mention also, you got some national recognition in 2016 when the Chicago Cubs went to the World Series. We don't know if that'll ever happen again, but anyway, how did that come about? You sang the national anthem. I mean, God, weren't you like this? How did you do it?
I was excited, but it'll happen again. I'll tell you that,
Okay,
because
fingers
we're
crossed.
gonna we're gonna we're gonna go there again. That's for sure. But um, growing up a Cubs fan on the south side of Chicago, being able to sing there for the World Series was a dream come true. What happened was, a couple of the players and Larry Rothschild, who's the pitching coach now at the Padres, would come into Ditka's to hear me sing, and they said, "Hey, would you like to sing the anthem?" And I did like one or two, and then 2004 I would do like maybe three or four, and get about that much. And then when the Ricketts family took it over and bought the Cubs, they gave me more and more anthems. And 2015, 2016, and so on, it was like it was amazing. I did opening day this year for the first time, which was just such an incredible feeling. But doing game 6 against the Dodgers, going into the game that took us into the World Series, being able to celebrate with the team on the field, which was awesome, getting a World Series ring from Mr. Ricketts, which was unbelievable. I couldn't believe that. And then having it being part of the Cubs family is a dream come true.
And then after you sang the anthem in 2016, I understand you got a tweet from Lady Gaga.
I did, yeah.
What was that like?
Amazing. I think she was just trying to be kind. She was in the stadium and heard my anthem and tweeted it, and I just think she was being really kind, because I had a horrible cold that day, and I could not really. If you listen to my anthem during the World Series, it did not sound good. And I think Lady Gaga, we were talking about before we started talking on air about bullying and everything. I found out she was also bullied. So she was someone that, just by giving me that tweet, inspired me to go talk about mental illness, bullying, and all this. And that would be an amazing dream that I would still love. I don't have many left. I really, pretty much am happy with everything that I did in my life. And, hey, I've sang in the World Series. I've sang at a bunch of great places. But if I can meet Lady Gaga and thank her for that, and just that tweet, what it did for me. And she obviously knew that it was going to do a lot for me, and
Oh yeah, and
changed my life.
Coming from Lady Gaga, what an honor. I mean,
Yeah, big time.
yeah, oh, absolutely. Now we are going to talk a little about the bullying, but I also want to ask you, all with what you have done, you even performed for the Olympic bid in Denmark. How did that all come about? I mean, you've been around, John.
Yeah. I sang in Denmark for the Olympic bid. They asked me to do that. Was lucky enough to perform when Chicago was trying to get the bid. It was a huge disappointment when we didn't, but it was such an amazing experience to go out to Denmark with everyone and just experience that. It was surreal to be around the athletes, Olympic athletes, gold medalists, Nadia Comaneci and Bart Connor, and the dream team, and all these other great Olympians and people from the city of Chicago. Also with the president and the first lady, President Obama, and Mayor Daley and everything. It was just a great experience, and I was very lucky to be asked to be part of that.
When you go out and sing, what kind of preparation do you put into it? I mean, are you vocalizing in your house the whole night or day before the performance, or
No.
are you just so seasoned you're ready to go?
I don't know if I'd say seasoned. I would just I do my vocal warm-ups, which I learned about halfway through my career that was very important, because I had a nodule that they thought they'd have to surgically remove, but it went away on its own. I was lucky enough to have it go away on its own. Went to an amazing doctor called Dr. Bastian outside of Chicago here. He's world renowned. And he said, let's give it some time, see what happens. And if we need to, laser it and take it out, we will. Maybe we'll get lucky and it'll heal. And we went back and it healed. And I learned after that he had a vocal instructor that I had to warm up before I sang, and I never did that before. And it's very simple. It's the and it's the stretching of the throat and stuff like that. So it's really 5-10 minutes before I start singing that the quote unquote getting ready for it happens.
Now, do you choose your own music, your own songs? Like
Yes.
we could say Frank Sinatra, or I heard you the other day online singing one of Louis Armstrong, which is my favorite song. I mean, you basically just pick what you like.
Yeah, I pick what I like. I just go with that. And, you know, pretty much if I sing at a private event or something, they'll tell me the songs they like, but 90% of the time it's just, hey, John, sing what you want to sing. And it's really nice. I mean, the people I sing for have always been very cordial, very polite. I've always had good experiences singing at private events and public events. So that's always been something that's fun. But to be able to go out and do your show and make people happy, that's the biggest thing, you know.
When you started all of this, did you ever think that this is where you would land up today, doing all of this, meeting all these people?
No, never. Never. I mean, you know, my thing was I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be extremely successful, and, you know, who knows what would have came out of it, movies, this, that, or everything else. Looking back, I'm grateful that that didn't happen. I'm grateful that that didn't take that course, because I don't think fame was something that was going to be good for me. I think fame and money are some of the biggest problems that we face in the world. It's a huge illusion. You have to be really grounded to be famous. And at the age that I'm at now, in my 40s, I'm still not there. You see so many famous people that really struggle with it, because the problem with humanity is we all want to be liked. We all want to be accepted. We all want to be loved. And the problem is that when you get in those situations with fame, and sometimes you have people who really can handle it well and are the greatest people. I met Jason Sudeikis the other day at Wrigley Field, and what a great guy. I mean, just down to earth, really nice. You could just tell, just a good guy. And then I've met other celebrities through the years that weren't that great, not necessarily to me, but to other people. And I know that fame can really, really mess with people's heads. So I'm glad I'm not famous. I really am. When I was younger, I wanted to really, really be famous. So I'm really happy that I'm not famous, believe it or not.
And fame can also destroy a life and a career.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I've seen it myself happen. I won't mention names, but I mean, you know, I would sit there thinking, wow, this person has everything that most people would dream of, and they threw it all away, and their life went in the opposite direction. And today they're a who, or where are they? I mean,
because fame isn't really good for us.
No.
It's not. I think a lot of the biggest thing with the coronavirus, we found out that celebrities and entertainers, including myself, we're not that important when it comes to that.
Right.
As human beings, everyone is important. When you realize that having power over somebody is not power, but having power over yourself is power, then you understand life. The illusion of life is to think that we have to be this, we have to be that, we have to be better than the other person, and we want to strive and get all these achievements. But then when somebody else does it, we get jealous, including myself. I used to get very jealous of that. If somebody was a better singer or this or that or everything else. But the thing I found out is when you release that, when you release the illusion of life, which is something we are so caught up in, and right now with how much news is out there and information, real or not, the human mind can only take so much. So the less you can get out of your mind, and I'm not saying don't educate yourself, but I'm saying educate yourself on what matters in life. There's an amazing book out there called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And it says that we have to live so presently in the moment that's the only way to actually be peaceful in life. And I think more and more people are coming to that realization. But the problem with social media, the internet, and everything that's happening It's coming too fast. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, major depressive disorder, and PTSD. And the one lucky thing I can say with what happened at the pandemic, yeah, it really freaked me out at first. I couldn't leave my house for the first month. I was constantly washing my hands. Then I went out and was asked by the Chicago police to sing on the streets for nursing homes. And I did that because it was such a beautiful idea for them to say, let's sing for these people who are stuck in there. And I was afraid to go out there. Through that, we did that, sang at other places. Then I caught COVID later on at another event with just a fluke. I was at a small restaurant where people were supposed to be outside, and a guy walked up to me, mask down, talking to me. I had my mask on. 5 days later, I just get really sick, lose my sense of taste and smell. And it hit me really hard. I thank God I didn't have to go to the hospital, but it hit me really, really hard. And the one thing I think that people had a problem with, celebrities, with coronavirus, not all, but most, is that they couldn't relate to, I want to say, normal people like you and me. I mean, I grew up on the south side of Chicago. My parents were born in Italy. I grew up in a bungalow. We weren't poor, but we weren't rich by any means. We were probably, lower middle class.
Right.
We always had food on the table. We might have wore hand-me-downs and things like that. But I'm so glad the way I was raised, because I can live a life without extravagance, even though I've been to so many great places to sing at and things like that. I could be the guy that can, I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts right now, that goes out, grab a hot dog and for lunch or something or whatever, and be fine with it. What I saw when it first came out with celebrities and COVID, there was so much backlash because they just couldn't connect with the public. And that was they were forcing themselves on it, talking about how hard it is to stay at home. Well, how hard is it to stay at home in a 10,000 square foot mansion?
Yeah.
I live in a 600 square foot condo in the city of Chicago. And when everybody's so close together and you got to go outside and you're being careful and this and that, when that pandemic first started, it was a very strange time. And that's the one thing that kind of bothered me with when certain celebrities would be complaining and trying desperately to be out there. People forgot that there were millions and millions and millions of people struggling, not only with the virus. Whatever your stance is on the virus, I know the virus is real because I had it. I know the virus can cause havoc because I've known people that passed away from it. Healthy people that didn't have medical conditions, didn't have diabetes or obesity like myself, or high blood pressure like myself. They had nothing, and they died from it. And people want to say, well, yeah, it's 99.9%. I get that. But, my grandmother, her sister died in 1918 from the Spanish flu. My grandmother shared the same bed with her in Italy and survived. And these pandemics and these things happen. And you would think that the most disappointing thing is, as a human race, we have a virus. If it's trying to kill us or live off of us or whatever, it should have brought us like this.
Together.
And it made us like that. And that's the most disappointing, sad thing that I've seen that's really affected me, because I don't understand. In times of tragedy, in times of pain, we should stick together.
Exactly. Band together, work together.
Yeah, if you're a believer or not, we all agree, or I would assume we all agree, that we came from the same spot on this planet. Some people believe in Adam and Eve. Some people believe that it was a woman in Africa. That I believe we came from a woman in Africa. Other people believe it's somewhere in the Middle East. But whatever it was, we are all from the same place. We share 99.9% of the same DNA, each and every one of us. And we're making that 0.01% or point whatever 1% separate us. And why are we doing that when life can be so much easier just by giving somebody a smile, just by listening to somebody, just by talking kindly, just by a nice interaction, but we don't handle stress well.
We live today in a world of not stopping to say hello, but more like criticizing. As soon as you see it, already you've got a comment about somebody. And my belief is always that's wrong. If you got something to say, then talk to that person. Find out. Don't talk behind their back. But that is what we do in this world. But yeah, this pandemic, you would think bringing everyone together kind of went the other way.
Well, and the biggest thing is people don't realize there's only two emotions in life.
Mhm.
One is fear, which is up here, and the other one is love, which comes from the inner being, the spirit, the whatever you want to call it. But it's true. There are only two emotions. You could say, well, John, there's anger, there's jealousy, there's envy, there's all sadness. That's all fear.
Mhm.
Love brings compassion, empathy, and everything that we need to survive. Now, you think that as a being, we need water, we need food, we need clothing, we need shelter, and medical assistance when needed. But we use all these other things, and we make all these other things so important. And then if we do die a death where we're on our deathbed, they say that 93% of people in hospice talk about family, friends, and love, not material things, not wealth, not successful accomplishments, because none of that matters. Everybody makes everything so much more important than it is. We are not important as individuals, but as a human race as a whole, we're extremely important. And what we do will affect the future. So for the human race in the future and in the present, we should be doing the best we can. Now, I'm a fuck up. I mess up. I'm not going to say I'm not. I mess up all the time. I was the angriest person in the world because I was bullied as a kid. But the person I hated the most was myself. It wasn't somebody else. It was myself. I thought I hated this person and this person. And no, I hated me. I hated me because of what happened to me as a child. And that's the biggest thing we don't do as human beings. We don't talk real with each other. And Eckhart Tolle says it beautifully in his book. He goes, two people could have a four-person conversation. Because if I go to you with my fake self and you come to me with your fake self, I'm going to have a different perception of you. You're going to have a different perception of me. So now we're actually talking like we're four people, instead of if I'm vulnerable and say, hey, you know what, Mark, I was bullied. Hey, you know what? I suffer from depression, anxiety, OCD. I went on national television and said I attempted suicide. People were like, are you crazy? How did you say that? Well, first of all, I said, yeah, I am crazy. And second of all, the reason why I did say that is because if I have to be vulnerable, and if it helps 1, 2, 3, or hopefully 100 or 1,000 people, then that's it. And people don't want to be vulnerable. And I don't blame them, because it's hard being vulnerable. We don't want to be vulnerable because we don't want to have people to see our weaknesses.
Do you think, John, by being bullied, that is what caused all of this?
Absolutely. Well, there is OCD in my family. It does run in my family, but definitely the bullying exasperated it. There was times when I was a child where I had so much anger and hatred at the age of 10, 11, and 12. It wasn't normal. I was getting beat up, and I mean, there were times I was bloodied in the alleys. I only lived a block and a half from my school, but I was a crossing guard for a while. And I remember one time they chased me down the alley, and the kids beat me up, and I was bloodied and crying and never wanted to fight back. Then I grew 8 inches junior to senior year, and that's a time in my life that there was a lot of anger, and there was a lot of I took it out on the football field. Played 4 years of college football, then played a year pro in Germany. But I still had so much anger. I never wanted to look stupid. And if I ever felt stupid, or if I ever felt offended by someone, this whoosh of extreme anxiety and extreme, like, I need to come back with a great comeback to put them down because they just made me feel stupid, was there. Or if I ever felt inferior, I don't feel inferior to anybody because I am not better than anyone, but I'm not worse. I'm not any worse than anyone. The biggest thing that made me peaceful, and don't get me wrong, I still struggle now, is that I learned that I don't have to love myself. I just have to be myself. And if I am, all I am is human. Nobody, I had one of the best breakfasts I had was with a homeless gentleman. And we talked for an hour, and he said, you're talking to me as a person. And I said, well, Leroy, what do you mean I'm talking to you as a person? How am I going to talk to you? You are a person. And he goes, John, you don't know how many people walk the street. They don't see me. And I go, I understand that. I get that. I get that. There's preconceived thoughts and why and this and that. But people don't understand. They see something, and I did this too before. You would jump to a conclusion and make a decision based on your own thought. But if you ask somebody what's going on and you talk to them, you might not always get the truth. But if you talk enough with courtesy and kindness, 99.9% of the time, you're going to get a good conversation. Now, if people lie, okay, they lie. We all lie. First of all, every human being on the face of the earth lies. Somebody says, I've never lied before. They just lied again. It's impossible. It's just impossible. But I think the funniest thing is we're the most intelligent, supposedly the most intelligent species on the face of the earth, but we destroy each other. We tear each other down. So how intelligent are we? We might, use this, which there's no intelligence in our brain. Our brain is the worst thing we have. We need to let the mind go and let the mind just run the body, do its course to run the body, make the body work, and that's it. But we need to focus what's in here, because one thing we all do, what is one thing we all do every day without thinking of? We all do it all the time, every one of us, every day, and we don't even have to think about it.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Breathe.
Oh, you know what? I was actually going to say that. That is true. And we don't think about it.
But what happens when we think about it?
We're hyperventilating and we can't.
No.
Oh.
Well, yes. But when we actually consciously think of our breathing, we meditate. Now, isn't that funny? The thing that we don't think about, that we do every day, if we just concentrate on 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day, it's going to be huge with benefits of calmness, of being present, of being in the moment. The first thing that you have to understand in life is there are no happy endings. We all die. Okay? There are no happy endings. But all you can do to live in this world, and we all say especially now, but there have been much worse times in this world than now. People have struggled much, much more in many different ways in medieval times, before that, during World War II. My father was a kid in World War II and saw the horrors of war firsthand. So there's been many times that humans have struggled. But the problem with the human is we either fear the future or we regret the past. Instead of living in the present moment. I do this myself. I do this myself every day. I can give this advice to so many people, but my wife will tell me, she'll be like, John, like, are you using that advice in yourself? And I'm like, no, I'm not today. I'm getting caught up in this illusion of life, because life is an illusion. Tell me it's not. How is life not an illusion? No. Everything we have on this life, including our bodies, we don't take with us. Nothing comes with us.
Yeah, I want to talk, John, because we are getting a little short on time. And I know the bullying campaign that you have going is real important to you. Tell us a little about that. What is it? You go to schools, you talk to children. What basically does this entitle? Or how did you even start the campaign?
Lady Gaga started me when I saw her reach out to me. And I heard that she was bullied also. And I heard she struggled with mental illness. I was like, boom, she did a kind gesture. So one kind gesture starts another, they say. And she started one with that. So I go to any school, anywhere for free. And I will speak to auditoriums or, anywhere I've had 700 students 1,200 students down to 30 students, but I'll go to any school anywhere and talk about bullying because of how much it affected and impacted my life. Until we understand that children in our childhood affect our adulthood, until we understand that, that that's what affects our life the most. Like, you learn a language as a child very easily. I could speak Italian because my grandparents never learned English and my parents spoke Italian to them. For me to learn a language now would be a lot harder. So while you're developing this brain, while you're growing up and you're learning about this world, if you're growing up in a world of violence and pain and suffering, which there's a lot of, you're going to have those feelings brought into your adulthood, and it's going to stick with you for a long time. I've been in therapy since I was 18 years old, and I'm 48 and still struggle. So just think about that. Think about people who haven't gone to therapy.
When you talk to children in classrooms, do you find that they are very receptive? Do they open up to you?
Extremely. And it's usually in auditoriums. It's usually on big stages. So it's amazing how they come up to the stage and speak in front of everyone. You know, you'll get that first.
Why are some people, though, afraid to admit they're being bullied? Is it just, you know, you hear it, that you keep it to yourself? You know, you're
why are people afraid? Why are people afraid to say they're sick? Why are people afraid to say they have mental illness? Why are people afraid to admit any fear, even in their adult life? Because we do not want to look vulnerable. When we think we look vulnerable, we think we're weak. But the opposite is true. Once you show someone your vulnerabilities, it's on them. We're all going to die. If you go, if it's today or if it's in 50 years from now, you're going to go.
We all end up in the same place.
Right. So what are we so afraid of? Including myself. I say to myself, what am I so afraid of? I know I'm going to die. I know I'm not here forever. I know this is literally, to me, a dream or an experience. Life is not the reality for me. The reality is after this life. Because there's been 75 billion people since the beginning of time. They say roughly 75 billion people have been on this earth. That's a lot of people. And if you think you're here, you're not. You're here with everybody else, and that's a good thing. We're all here. We are all the same. Nobody's better than anybody else, and nobody's worse than anybody else. The only thing that makes you better or worse are your actions towards others.
I like that an awful lot. And John, before we go, tell me, what does the future hold for you? I mean, you know, you've accomplished just so much in your 40 years, more than people accomplish in 80 years. What do you think? I mean, any goals? Would you still ever like to do TV? Would you like a show on TV, a musical show, a singing show? What would John Vincent like for himself?
Peace. Peace. I said that to myself this morning. I just want peace. If I stay where I'm at singing, like I have been mostly in the Chicagoland area, or, you know, traveling around. I mean, I am going to Italy to perform this year in Lake Como, but I mean, if I sing in Chicago and I sing the anthem for the Cubs or the Packers or this or that, or whatever team, and I do the shows that I'm doing and it stays where I'm at, I'm very happy and content with that. Good. There's nothing, I don't need to strive for a TV show or this or that, because that's all changed. It's all, you know, I think especially with COVID, I mean, everything to me is better live, because then you can interact with the crowd and talk and do that. So on TV, would that be great? I don't know. When I was younger, I'd be like, yeah, that'd be great. I've been on TV many times, and I think I'll still be on. I'm actually have a couple TV things coming up. But yeah, no, the only thing I want in the future is peace. That's it. If I have peace, what else do I need?
And tell the fans out there, where can they find you or what? Because I know you do singing every so often. I put it on. There's John. So how can they find you or what?
You can find me at Wrigley Field doing the anthem there with the Cubs. And then later on in October, I'm going to be starting, there's a group starting a private club in Chicago. It's an old-fashioned speakeasy back where Sinatra used to hang out. The Beatles and everything from the 60s is still there, and it's beautiful. It's the owners brought me through there, and they want me to be the resident singer, and it looks like I'll be taking that direction this October. But I'm doing a lot of private events right now. Traveling has opened up a lot. You know, just went out to Boston, did a show. So that stuff's happening. The public stuff is just Wrigley right now, and then eventually the new club that'll be coming up.
Well, John, thank you for being here. I mean, not only are you a great singer, a great speaker, I think a lot of people, and especially if any young folks listening today, have learned an awful lot listening to you. And much continued success with your career. And I think we're going to even be hearing more of you. Maybe there will be a duet with Lady Gaga.
Now that I would love. See, you just brought something out of me. Now I got something out to say. Yeah, duet with Lady Gaga. So there you go.
Well, John, thank you so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. You have a great evening.